Hello, everyone, and welcome to The Rundown, where we talk about 2A news and conservative views. I will be your host today, Craig DeLuz, coming at you from the West Coast, the left coast, behind the Iron Curtain, otherwise known as the Sierras. But as we all know, I do not do this program by myself.
No, my name is Mike Piwowarski. I am your co-host from the East Coast. That's the co-host with the most from the coast with the most. Here on the Rundown, we bring you 2A views of conservative news. Craig, it's Monday Gun Day. How was your weekend?
It was phenomenal. Spent some time with some brethren, out doing some camping, having a good time, enjoying good food, good spirits, and good fun.
So many camping jokes, but I mean, if you had fun, I will just leave it at that. So
I
we'll just say.
appreciate that. I appreciate that. How about
Uh,
yourself?
did you did you get the camping? I know I sent you a camping meme over the weekend.
You
And
know
I don't know how.
what? Where I was at, I did not have much cell service, so I did not. If I got it, I didn't see it.
All right. So what I'll do is I'll talk about my weekend while you scroll back and find it, and then you could post it,
All
so we
right,
can start
you tell
everybody's
me a little
week
bit
off
of.
with
Go
a
ahead.
funny
Tell
laugh.
us about your
Uh,
weekend.
it was air show weekend, right? So actually get with the job, get the opportunity to work the air show, and it was cool. It's just the one that we do is a big warbird one. It's a giant museum. And they roll out 35 or 40 of these incredibly old classic jets that look amazing, and propeller aircraft, obviously, and then they get the F-18s come flying over for doing the demos, the A-10s, the F-22s, helicopter demo, just really cool day to be out on the air show. Now, like we told you last week, about Wednesday of last week, Florida got punched in the face by summer. So it was, if you can see the redness here, that's not makeup, folks. That's the real redness. So it was a great time, good time, and listen, a lot of folks politically aligned as well when it comes to the aviation, at least to watch the military aircraft come out. So it's always fun to sit and have those conversations and drink a $12 lemonade. So just kind of fun stuff. Good stuff. And the weather held out. It was a little overcast from I don't know if you guys get this out there. We get the Saharan sand in the air out here right now, Craig. It blooms, I guess, over Africa, and then sits in our high altitude and makes a haze. So it kind of looks like California all the time. So
Is that the one you're referring to?
yes, 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 yes.
Wife,
Yeah,
wife stabs husband with a squirrel.
yeah. I figure that's what happens when you go camping. It sounds really good, and by the end of it, the wife is done with you.
Oh, okay. That was a funny one. Good stuff. Good stuff. Well, you know me. Like I said before, I enjoy camping. I never did. Honestly, it wasn't until I was in my 40s that I actually started enjoying camping. So, uh, whatever. I know you don't like it. Once you hit your 40s, you're like, yeah,
Yeah.
no, never camping again.
Well, it wasn't that; it was the army. Because listen, there's camping, right? But now my brain can't separate camping from setting up a defensive area, or overlapping fields of fire and routes of entry and all of that. The only way I can go camping, Craig, is laying down on my stomach on my rifle, and I can go to sleep.
Yeah.
Like I said, that's it.
Then you go. Then you go to sleep. Got it.
Yep, that's it. That's it. Yep.
All right. Well, hey, folks, look, do us a favor. Look, as we get into the show today, why don't you do us a favor? Go ahead, share the program out, however you're watching us, whether you're watching us on YouTube or Facebook or on OpsLens, Spotify, or even if you're just listening to us via podcast, via iHeartRadio or Google Podcasts or Apple Podcasts, however you're listening, please do us a favor. Share us with your friends. Let them know that this is the place to be to talk about 2A news and conservative views.
Sharon.
All right, let's get into today's first story. And this is less about breaking news than this is about what is kind of going on overall in the country. And that is, ghost guns is becoming a big thing, right? And for some reason, everyone, or at least everyone on the left, seems to be talking about quote unquote ghost guns. But the thing that we're finding more and more, Mike, is that they're not just talking about ghost guns, but they're actually just lying about ghost guns. And there was a
Yes.
piece by our good friend Mr. Tom Knighton over at Bearing Arms, where he basically goes through and debunks a lot of the stuff that they were saying, a lot of the reports that we're hearing about what is going on with quote unquote, basically, they call them ghost guns. They're basically firearms that are manufactured at home, or people who manufacture firearms at home. And like for example, one of the big mistakes they do is they say, well, there were 9,000 people killed with ghost guns, right? 9,000 murders with ghost guns, but yet there seem to be only 6,000 people total reported to be killed by guns. I I don't know. Maybe being anti-gun removes you from all responsibility to, I don't know, be good at math.
Well, Craig, you have to understand if you want to be good at math, right? You have 9,000 people killed by ghost guns.
Right.
You have 6,000 total murders. So of those murders, 3,000 were killed 1.5 times.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
See,
Yeah.
that's why we keep you around, because
That's right.
you are very good at parsing out their logic.
There we go. There we go.
I mean,
Yeah, it is kind of ridiculous, right? They can't even get their own numbers right. I mean, this is literally the Homer Simpson sitting there going, 80% of the people know 70% are facts or lies. It's just, I mean, they're just making this up as they sit there with no research and no data to support it and back it up. And when it is backed up by data, it's an Everytown data fact, or a Mother Jones data fact that has no basis in reality whatsoever. Meanwhile, we deal with people like the Gun Rights Policy Conference, Second Amendment Foundation, and the Crime Prevention Research Center, which spend the entirety of their existence, proving and disproving the facts that the left puts out there. It's if you stop to look at it factually, it's not even a fight. It's us slapping a kitten around. It's not even real.
right. So just to be clear, in the piece, he points out that, once again, this is a legislator there in Illinois who's talking about 9,000 murders with ghost guns, right? But then they point out that even according to the anti-gunners, there's only been about 7,300 people who've actually gun-related non-suicide deaths in 2022, and of those, 438 are defensive uses, right? Which basically, they also include about 552 accidental shootings. So when you parse that all out, once again, you're still only talking about 6,300 murders in total so far in
Right
2022, and still
now, yeah.
9,000 of them have come from ghost guns.
Right, and don't forget to take out the known criminal versus criminal crimes, and then of course uh, when you get down to the final number of random victim firearms related crimes, you're looking at closer to 2,000, 2,500 per year.
Right. But 9,000 of those are from ghost guns.
9,000 of those were with ghost guns. Yeah, exactly right.
Keep in mind,
I'm waiting. There's. I heard Hollywood's making a new TV show on this, Craig. It's actually the Ghost Gun Whisperer.
Ghost gun whisperer. There you go. Wait, by the way, keep in mind, these
will
are the
find
people
them
who
real
keep
fast,
telling
yeah.
us to follow the science. They
Follow
can't
the
even
science.
follow the math, and they want us to follow their science.
Yeah.
I come to
that's
the
good,
realization
that's
it's
good.
not that they want us to follow the science, it's they want us to follow their science, their
Exactly
political
right.
science.
Yeah, that's all it is. Political science,
Right.
science fiction theater. Political
So now
science fiction theater.
this next story. Now, Mike, you and I talked. It's funny because we both had a gun buyback story, right? It was the funniest thing
Yes.
because Mike started telling me about his gun buyback, and I literally just pulled up a story here. So both of us in the cities in which we reside, they decided to host gun buyback programs. And Mike started telling about his. And go ahead and tell him about the one that took place there in Orlando.
Yeah, and it happens all around Central Florida, and it's one of the bigger radio stations that has this, and they've been doing it for, I don't know, 10, 15 years. They do it every year, and but now they've become very left wing aggressive about it. Okay, so I guess we can say that. And they get out there and they spout all the wrong stats, all the wrong citations when it comes to the value of these gun buybacks. Now, this one isn't technically, I guess it's a gun buyback, Craig. What they do is give away $50 gift cards to a shoe place. So they call it like Kicks for Guns, I think is what it's called. The ironic part is it's on the same radio, one of the same radio stations that I'm on here in Central Florida with the Arms Room Radio. So we go, or I went all after them. I was, I don't care. They're they're good people, but uneducated, Craig, when it comes to it, because they're all especially with the Buffalo shooting, we have to do something. We have to do something. Well, I'm sorry. In your life, if you have a problem, the first thing you need to do with that problem is identify the problem. And if let's say, Craig, you have a drinking problem and you got DUIs and you've identified the problem as your car, well, you've made the wrong analysis. Okay. And that's the problem that you and I have with gun buybacks or anything else that's directed at guns is it's not the guns doing any of the violence. It's individuals with the guns. And unless you identify the problem correctly, you'll never solve it. And that's how I attacked him from that end, that you've done this wrong. And by the way, here's the other problem that I pointed out to them, Craig. This one here is big on the whole amnesty thing, right? Oh, it's amnesty. Turn the guns in. No, don't worry about it. Everybody gets $50. Everybody gets $50. And they really, really get out there and they push and encourage the people to bring firearms. And I've looked at these stats over the past 7-8 years in Florida. You know what happens in Central Florida the 2-3 weeks prior to these gun buybacks?
I'm gonna guess that guns get stolen out of people's homes.
Yes, yeah. The crime rate, the theft rate on guns goes up like tenfold the 2-3 weeks prior to this. They're creating felons. They're creating victims. So we could give a $50 gift card away. They don't care. And then you go on and say, we're going to give you amnesty. Yeah, great. Way to go, jackwagons. How many of these people ended up getting shot too? Because we just had another one in Orlando shot and killed during a burglary. Were they there to pick up one of your free $50 gift for gun cards, you jackwagons?
Well, and the funny part is when you go even beyond that, think about this. If there is a true amnesty, right? If there's a true amnesty, then what you've done is you've created a scenario where people can take guns that have been used in crimes, and it's a great way to dispose of those guns. Now, or maybe what's happening is that maybe you're not asking any questions at the time, but that doesn't mean they're not running checks on those guns to see if they have been used in any crimes, which means basically, yeah, they're lying to people. Only one of those can be true, and I'm willing to bet that in some cases one is true and in some cases another is true.
But listen, if you really believe this whole amnesty thing, well, guess what's going to happen? First off, they bring the gun in, they drop it in a bag, right? You notice they don't put their hands all over it, or they don't do so without gloves on. So that gun goes in there. They're going to test it. They're going to look for the firing pattern, the rifling pattern on that, see if it matches any open cases. By the way, the guy across the street with the camera is getting your tag number every time you come in and drop a gun off. May not be taking your picture in the parking lot where you're getting it done, but from across the street they are. You're being lied to. And why can you be lied to? Because guess what? In order to solve a crime, law enforcement is allowed to use different techniques.
They are allowed to lie to you.
They're allowed to lie to you in certain circumstances. Yes. All right. Let me just speak, because we always get off the line on that. They can't say, if you confess, you'll go free. They can't say stuff like that.
Exactly.
But people, that's when they hear lie, Craig. They assume that's what they're lying about. So when they lie and say, if you come in, we won't arrest you. Well, that's guess what? You're under arrest. It's those kind of things. But
here's how bad it is, though, Mike. Even CNN has to admit that the experts say that they don't reduce crime, right? Even they have to admit that it doesn't work. And then here, so this was one where they were handing out gas cards, and within 45 minutes, I love the headline: Sac PD gun buyback program runs out of gas. So in 45 minutes in, they ran out of gas cards, right? But here's what's funny when you go into it. So this is a guy, when it was going, there's a group here in Sacramento called, where's it at? Oh, Voice of the Youth. It's a nonprofit providing training, mentorship, and motivation to Sacramento youth. And he's like, we don't think it's a fixer for gun violence, just buying a gun back, right? But it's certainly a piece we can try, right? So in other words, he's saying, yeah, we know this doesn't work, but hey, let's do it anyway. And that's what's so crazy about it.
We got to do something.
What happened to the idea of, I mean, when even the people who are supposed to be advocating for this are like, yeah, it doesn't work, and yet you
Yeah.
still do it. How dumb is that?
Well, because we have to do something, Craig, right? And we know that 90% of the people out there evidently are uneducated about this because it's something, right? We said we had to do something, so we did something, but we knew something wasn't the right answer because we defined the problem incorrectly. So,
Well,
and then we,
it's like I
and then
like to
we
say,
lie. Don't forget, we're going to lie. We're
yes,
going to say there's amnesty,
yep,
and there's not amnesty, and then. And I understand, Craig. You understand when we say amnesty that means when you drop the gun off, if that gun's stolen, you're not going to jail for dropping off that gun. That
right,
doesn't mean everything that you did with that gun prior you get amnesty for. Okay,
exactly,
it means we're not going to arrest you at the same time we hand you a $50 gift card.
right. Well, because that would be bad PR.
Exactly right. Yeah,
not
yeah,
not because we don't want to, but that would be bad PR.
yeah,
We'll
yeah.
do
We'll
it
do that
later.
later. We can do that later. Exactly right.
Oh man, yeah, no. So yeah, gun buyback programs don't work. Liberals or anti-gunners will keep doing them, and the media will keep covering them as if they worked, and then admit in the reporting that yeah, they don't work.
Yeah.
But hey, maybe
No, they
we'll
would.
take a bazooka off the off the streets.
I've seen the craziest stuff at these gun buybacks. I've seen uh, the old. You said bazooka, then a military AT-4 launcher, and once they're shot, and they put a yellow band around them so you know they're for training and they can never be used again. I've seen guys turn those in, and it has the clearly identifiable government symbols of inactive, inert, cannot be used, and they're still giving $50 away because they don't know what the hell
Oh
they
no,
are.
no, you don't
Uh,
have to be involved with law enforcement to see it because they report it on the news and they
yeah,
show
yeah,
it to you right there on the news.
yeah. We as an FFL, federal firearms license, we would get firearms that would people would come and trade in, grandpa's old barn find or something like that. And those are really good for, if you think about it, that's a good gun to give to the police. You don't want it. You don't want anything to do with it, right?
Right.
So you go turn it in. Well, they bring it first. People would bring it to a gun store to see if they get a couple bucks for it. So we tell them, listen, it's worthless. We know it's old. That doesn't make it rare though. Tell you what, I'll give you $20, and we'd stack them in a garbage pail. So you'd have all these old shotguns sticking in a garbage pail.
Right.
And then we'd wait for one of these gun buybacks to come along and go turn them into the police and get $50 a piece for them. Because guess what? As a federal firearms license dealer, I'm allowed to turn firearms over to law enforcement to be destroyed. Well,
Yep.
I did so. I just made $50 a piece doing it though.
There you go. There you go.
You
Funny
want to
how
have a
that
stupid
works.
system? I'll abuse it.
All right, talk about abusing the system. Now, Mike and I have lamented and more than once about between the NFL and the NBA and other major sports and how, especially during the height of the George Floyd riots, how they were just kicking down cash and just loving all over a group known as Black Lives Matter. Now, Black Lives Matter, not just the statement, but Black Lives Matter, the organization. And folks, they were kicking them down some serious cash. Well, now it's been revealed that the folks over at BLM, well, they have not been spending that money quite wisely. In fact, they've gone out of their way. They've amassed about $42 million in assets. They've bought luxury homes with that money. They've paid their baby daddy almost $1 million, as well as their brother almost got $1 million. Just kicking down cash, taking care of their own folk. I mean, these folks have demonstrated that they may be trained Marxists, but they're pretty adept at navigating naked capitalism and utilizing what, for lack of a better term, white guilt in order to convince corporations to kick them down a boatload of cash. Well, now all of a sudden there are folks in the media who are raising questions to the NFL and the NBA about this crazy spending spree and wondering, because are you guys, do you guys have anything to say about this? Because ultimately, Mike, here's the thing. The people who are paying it are the people who are buying the tickets, the people who are buying the NFL packages, the people who are spending the money supporting the NFL and the NBA, and especially the NBA. And yet, and still, they have absolutely nothing to say about how that money is being spent. I mean, I just find it not interesting. I find it egregious that they can't at least say, you know what? Look, we were trying to do a good thing, and yeah, they lied.
Well, once again, Craig, right? Let's make an assumption without doing our own independent research, like you and I tell people constantly. Just because you hear it here doesn't mean it's the truth. You need to go out and do the research. Hey, you and I may have been fed a line, Craig, and our research proved invalid. We still tell everybody to go out there and do their own research. BLM showed up. It looked like the savior of African American causes, and it's ended up to be the scourge of them now. Now they're you could see how crooked they were and where the money really went. It's horrible that it had to happen. And it's horrible that at least $42 million, right? We're getting with 90 million total, right? 42 of it's gone bad. So you got almost a 50-50 where 50 was used incorrectly or used illegally, and the others just sitting there. So we needed someone. Did the nation need someone to talk to? Did the nation need an outlet to voice African American problems? Yes, it did. Was BLM it? Yeah, well, clearly not.
Well,
Clearly
and
not.
what was even worse was when you literally had people who were saying, "Look, we recognize the difference between BLM the statement, BLM the movement, and BLM the organization," and
Yeah,
probably easily 75% to 90% of the criticism was of BLM the organization, the group that basically said that their goal was to destroy the criminal justice system and let all the
yeah,
prisoners, let everybody out of jail. They specifically said their goal is to destroy the nuclear family. They made it a point to say that they are trained Marxists, and everything that they promoted via their website was all in line with Marxist theory and ideology. And people were saying, "Look, there's a problem with this group, and why are you promoting this group, and why are you giving money to this group that is
yeah.
trying to destroy just the fundamental building blocks of this country?" And when you said that, well, if you were white, you were called racist. If you were black, you were called a sellout, or you had internalized racism. And now
Well,
we know everything that people were saying is true. Not only is it true, but we also know that, yeah, they're not real interested in being Marxists because they really just want to use Marxism to take control, which is basically seize money for their own benefit.
well, it's the ignorance of politics, right? It's uh, uh, the Hillary making the assumption and being correct most of the time that all women are going to vote for her, right? But she's a woman, I'm going to vote for her. Of Black Americans, African Americans voting for Obama because he's black, he's one of us. And doing no time to analyze the politics of wait a second, that person disagrees with I disagree with 100% of the time. It's that blind faith of believing the lies that they're going to be the savior. Just
Well,
like BLM said, give us your money and we'll defund the police, right?
but
Wait,
that
hold on.
also goes to
Give us the
even
money
even
and we'll
now, like we
defund.
were talking about replacement theory. What's
Yeah,
funny is they're finding that in polls, in particular of those who are coming to the United States, what they're recognizing now is like Latino voters are actually splitting 50-50.
yes.
Many of them, at least around 50% of them, supported Donald Trump. And that was numbers that they never thought, Democrats never thought that they would see. But the fact is that the values that Democrats tend to support are the very same values that they are running away from. They're trying to get away from those socialist policies in the countries where they came from, and their attitude is, why would
The,
I support that
the,
very same thing here? And that's
the
that's with
Democrats don't know
all of the
the
media, all of
Democrats.
academia, even the Spanish media, lying to them about what Democrats actually stand for.
The Democrats don't know the difference between a Mexican and a Cuban of the heritage or the politics thereof, and they know that the Mexicans are coming across the border, so that's what they're focused on. And the Mexicans come from a very poor country with a corrupt government, but that's about where it is. You know why they don't have communism in Mexico? Because the corruption wouldn't be a high enough level for them. Right? They've got more corruption now than you could even have in a socialist or communist government.
Right.
But as you go down, the Central America and welcome yourself into northern South America, you get to experience all sorts of socialist and communism. Look at what's going on in Venezuela as well, right?
Yep.
So the Hispanic world is in our own hemisphere, right? And it gets to experience communism every day. Yet the Democrats fail to realize that.
Exactly. And they recognize it when they see it. They're like, yeah,
Yeah,
no, no, I'm good.
Yeah. Yeah, they're Spanish. They'll vote for me because I'm going to give them a check if they come here.
Exactly.
Uh, that might be good for the people that want to come get a check, but the rest of them just want a place to raise their family and be prosperous. Okay, you know.
Well, and I think that's the one of the consistents that with people who are attracted to coming to the United States of America is they see it as a land of opportunity, and
Yeah.
people who are looking for opportunity, many of them are looking to, and they're going to do what they got to do to get here. And you look at what they have to go through to get here. That's because they recognize that there's opportunity here if they're willing to work hard, and that's what's attracting people to the United States. Now the challenge we have is we're in a situation where we are developing and building an economy that can only support so many non-skilled workers, right?
Right.
You're at a certain point where you got to have a certain skill set in order to be able to be self-sufficient in this economy. Now, the one thing I will say is Democrats are the ones who seem to be in favor of just, oh yeah, no, it doesn't matter if you have any skills or not. We, the government, will take care of you. The problem is that the people, once again, who are coming here, many of them recognize and see that from like what they came from, and they're like, yeah, no, because if I'm going to come and work hard, I'm not supporting somebody who's got no skills and not interested in working.
Well, like, again, now look throughout much of the country, right? And when
Mm-hmm.
Hispanics come here, and like you have, I'll say, in Florida, all right. Um, and this I'm trying not trying to single out Hispanics by any means, but they come here hardworking. I mean, listen, all of South Florida has incredible diversity, down there now, and it's a wonderful place to go and visit in my own state. But they come and they work because you know what Florida gives them just enough to get the taste, right? You go to California though, and what happens there? They give you enough money so you don't have to do anything, and you can
Yep.
become a burden to society.
Well,
Uh,
exactly.
and
And here's the thing. One of the things we learned economically or financially, whatever you want to call it, from COVID was that if you pay people not to work, they won't work.
right,
If
yeah,
I can make as much, if not more money by sitting at home and filling out a government form, I'm not saying that, but there are people out there who've just decided, there are enough people out there who decided, yeah, I'll just do that.
yeah.
It,
No,
I
you
hate
sit
to
at
say
home
this,
on their
but
government
liberals
provided
want to pass
phone.
policies
On their
based on what they hope people will do.
Yeah,
Conservatives tend to base policies based on what people actually do.
yeah. But you look at the three Hispanic receiving countries along the border, or excuse me, states along the border: Florida, Texas, and California, and look at the difference in what goes on. It
Yep.
just as opposed to the maintaining the level of poverty. It's amazing because California just maintains it just enough there so that they get that check
Hmm.
in the mail and they can buy those votes. Where in Texas and Florida, hey, listen, it's the land of opportunity. Come get a job. Uh,
There's a reason why crime is higher in California, why the high school dropout rate is higher in California, why the income disparity is higher in California, why the poverty rate is higher in California. And it's not because we've undertaxed the rich. It's not
yeah,
because we're locking criminals up.
yeah. Oh, well, you don't understand how inflation and taxation works, Greg. That's the problem there.
I'm sorry, but yeah, we'll go to the Biden School of Economic Policy.
Pudding, pudding. See, that's what he's
Medicare
thinking about.
care. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so this is one from Florida, Mike, and this was one that I really enjoyed seeing this because universities used to be a place where you could actually have discussions and have debates, and really, it was a place where people could disagree, and they did so on a higher intellectual level, and you could actually have debates and stuff like that. Well, that's not the case anymore. Now at universities, if you do not toe the liberal left wing, socialist, Marxist, social justice warrior line, well, then your job is in danger. Your position, wherever you are, is in danger. There was a professor at Central University there in Florida, University of Central Florida, who back during the George Floyd riots and all of that, put out some tweets that were considered to be racially insensitive. And needless to say, he lost his job. Well, now he has actually been reinstated. There was an arbitrator. A lot of times now employers, in part of an employment contract, will say, hey, they'll require you to do arbitration instead of taking them to court. Well, this particular professor has now been returned to his job because they said he just did. They didn't. They're saying he did. They did not have, once again, just cause in order to let him go back in January of 2021. Now, here are some of the tweets that he had put out there. Let me see. Da-da-da. Oh, he said, well, here was my favorite one. Black privilege is real. Besides affirm action, special scholarships, and other set asides, being shielded from legitimate criticism is a privilege. But as a group, they're missing out on much needed feedback. And I got to tell you, he's not wrong. I mean, in this particular case, I happen to agree with him because it's I think one of the first times I noticed this was when Barack Obama was president, right? Whenever people made legitimate criticisms of his policy, the first response that anyone that Democrats would come back with was, "Oh, well, you're just racist." And I'm like, but
Yeah.
if they're debating the actual policy, they'd be saying the same exact thing if Hillary had won and Hillary was pushing that policy, right? We would still be arguing
Yes.
against that policy. How does it make you racist because you disagree with someone's policy?
Well, it's because it's the knee jerk reaction, right? It's remember everything that happened after Donald Trump was president was you're wrong and you're a racist. You're a racist. That's what it was. Because anything after a black man was president of this country, anything that you disagreed with him on, that must make you a racist because his race is different than yours, having nothing to do evidently with my political opinion compared to his political opinion, but it just had everything to do with the color of our skin. So it's ridiculous. It's good to see this guy got his job back. And Craig, I hope he goes the other way. I hope he wears everything short of a Klan uniform walking around campus. I want to see him. I want to see him go. When we see discrimination go the other way, right? When somebody actually there is real discrimination against the African American, and then for the rest of their career they wear the dashiki, right? I want to see this guy out there doing everything on the opposite side to piss people off.
Well, I want him to be able. I want him to publicly. I want to see these discussions had, because you're right. If you can't provide legitimate criticism, I mean,
Yeah.
because I will still continue to say that the next movement in civil rights, in particular in the black community, is going to be a conversation that we have to have amongst ourselves. It's changes that we need to make in and of ourselves in our community. We need to talk about why fatherlessness is so prevalent in our community, right? We
Yeah.
need to talk
Yeah.
about why there seems to be amongst many in the black community this almost shaming of people who decide that they want to get an education, that they want to be educated, or people who want to own businesses. Why can we not have open political discussions on issues, and
Yeah.
disagree and not be called sellouts? Until we can have these discussions, we're not going to be able to, and we're not going to be able to get rid of a lot of the disparities that we see, because a lot of the disparities that we see are not because of racism. They're because of legitimate things that we have latched onto, it seems like, as a people. And until we address those things, then we're not going to be able to correct those disparities.
No, I absolutely agree. Absolutely agree. I'm just trying to lay down the little little humor point, little laughter. I'd like to see this guy go all wacky white on one side just to watch people go, "Oh, I can't believe he said that." I didn't say go anti-black. I said wacky white. Okay, let's be
Yeah,
clear on that. Right?
once again, it would. But all it would do, and the problem with that is yes, it would be hilarious. But the
Yes.
problem is we wouldn't have the discussion, and they would just
Yeah, but
look
you
at.
know
I
what,
mean,
Craig?
it kind of reminds me of like with Donald Trump. They're just we wind up arguing over some of the stupid stuff that he says and does so much that
Yeah.
we forget that he actually did a lot of really good things policy wise.
Yes, Craig. But remember the amazing healing power of laughter. So, you know,
I was
if we
so
can
I broke
if we can
I
make
was
people
broke
laugh.
down and I was actually watched Bill Maher's comedy special on Netflix because I listened to him on Joe Rogan and he sounded like a reasonable individual. And then I went and I watched. I tried to watch. I didn't watch the whole thing. And I've come to realize that there are a lot of Democrats who they are not, especially comedians. They're not funny. They're just mean. They just hate
Yes.
Republicans, and
Yes.
their
Like when
comedy when it comes to Republicans is not. It's not even remotely funny.
right.
It's literally just mean. And Bill Maher, as much as I believe that policy wise he agrees with us a lot more than he'd ever like to admit,
Right.
he
Right.
just has this nasty just hate of Republicans and will
Well,
never support Republicans.
and yeah, and I know what it is with Republican and with him because he's always been, like you said, politically active.
Right.
Um, but there's, I mean, how many people do you know? How many people do you know that are conservative their whole life? But you mentioned name Trump, and they start to flicker and they can't deal with it.
Right.
You and I have known people that have ruined their careers politically because of their Trump derangement syndrome. Because they can't get over it.
Yeah.
And I don't know what that is. That passion of hatred for a single individual as opposed to the overall good of the party.
Well, exactly. It's like, look at the policy. Look at the policy. I can
Right.
admit when Barack Obama did good on policy, and that was a rarity. It was a serious rarity. But I can
Yeah, I'm
acknowledge
trying to remember
when
it. Hold on,
good
let me do some
policy is
crack
done
research
by a
here.
Democrat. The problem is that there is this, once again, they have instituted, and there, by the way, we do have people on our side who have visceral hatred towards Democrats. And they don't base it on policy. And I'm like this, look, you got to look at what they're doing, folks. Look at what they're doing.
Yeah.
That's what you need to be basing it on. Not based on just, once again, this personal, I hate Democrats thing or Republicans.
Right.
Because
I hate Illinois Nazis.
there you go. Just Illinois Nazis, though, right?
That's a movie quote. Come on, 80s movie trivia quote, Just, I hate Illinois Nazis. Well, they won
All
a court
right.
case. So
We're
they
going to
have the
move
to be
right
here.
along to our parting shot. You remember it wasn't too long ago that Elon Musk finally just said, I've never voted for a Republican, but there's no way that I can support Democrats because they used to be the party of kindness, right? And he
Yeah.
said, but watch, it's not going to be long before all of a sudden you're going to start to see the attacks come out against me. And then sure enough, what did we see? Sure enough, here's the tweet. You have the tweet above. He says, in the past, I voted Democrat because they were mostly the kindness party. I don't know what Democrat party he was talking about, but I've never known them to be the kindness party. But
Well, they gave stuff to the poor. Remember, they gave things to the poor.
well, they gave other people's stuff to the poor. They didn't give their
yeah,
own money to
but
the
that
poor.
was nice of them. It was nice
Yeah,
of
to
them.
give other people's money to the poor.
Yeah.
That ain't nice. That's not kindness. And especially
you're
Elon
poor,
Musk
it's-
should be mad because he was giving his money away to the poor. Anyway,
Right.
it says, but they became the party of division and hate, so I no longer support them and will vote Republican. Now watch the Dirty Tricks campaign against me unfold with a little popcorn emoji. 24 hours later, all of these liberal groups are out there putting out stuff. There's now all of a sudden there's a story about him exposing himself to to a SpaceX stewardess. Now, you know what's even funnier about this, Mike? Was he actually put out a thing. He's like, look, I will bet you, I forget how much money he said, describe anything, you describe it to me. Put it out there. Tell me what it looks like. I mean, just totally
Well, this
called
guy's
her out.
brilliant. Oh my God, hold on, wait a second. This guy's brilliant. Think about this, Craig, right? First off, I'm going to bet this was first class and probably not coach. And so he shows it to her, right?
Uh-huh.
And now she says he showed it to her. And he says, prove it, describe it. And he's going to disprove her by showing it to the rest of us. So he's going to have shown it to everyone.
On
This
Twitter.
guy's brilliant.
No.
This guy's brilliant. Yeah, there you go. Yep, exactly right. Yep. It'll be called the tweeter.
He's exactly. Or as my mother used to say, if you keep playing with your Twitter, you'll go blind.
That's it. There you go. Yep. Brilliant.
Oh, folks. Anyway, we're having fun today. All right, Mikey, how about a quick shout out to our sponsors before we go?
Let's say hello to our good friends at Guerrilla Machining, Grid Defense, the California Republican Assembly, and our newest friends over at uscombatgear.com.
Yes, folks, trust me, they have good stuff there. Go the links to their websites are in the description of this video. Go there, check them out. I promise you will see some stuff that you're going to want, or that you're going to want to be a participant of, or you're going to want to partake. Just do me a favor, when you send them some Skrilla, make sure you let them know that the guys over at the Rundown sent you.
We enjoyed having you with us today. We look forward to seeing you again on what's tomorrow, the Taco Tuesday.
Tomorrow, Taco Tuesday. We'll see you then.